Hello everyone, and welcome to Merlin's Manor, and welcome to my 100th video. Glad you can join me today. And today I'm going to be doing a different type of series than I've done before. I'm beginning a series of videos where I'm going to be talking about tips to win different types of games. And today I'm going to be talking about Final Girl. Final Girl is a game that a lot of people have said is very difficult, and a lot of people complain that it's very luck-based. But there's actually a lot of ways to mitigate your luck and a lot of ways that you can strategize to win this game. I actually have over 75% in my victories for Final Girl. And so I'm winning 3 out of 4 games. And so I've got a pretty good strategy down. I thought I'd share some tips with you guys today. And I'm going to spend the first few of these tips talking about proper luck mitigation, because that's going to be your main way to win this game. And one of the first things I want to talk about is spending cards to turn 3s and 4s into successes. This is a very important part of your luck mitigation, and part of being able to do that is, first of all, making sure you have cards that you can and are willing to spend in case when you roll those dice, you don't get any successes, or you needed 2 and you only got 1, and one of those 3s and 4s that you can turn in, then you can have a couple cards to go ahead and toss down at it. And so sometimes this is going to mean holding off on actions until you get to your next turn. Also, think about the cards you don't need right now. Weak attack and short rest are cards that oftentimes in the early game you're not even going to be using. And so why not just use those to spend to make a success happen? And along those lines, I also want to talk about the close call, because you can fall into a trap with this close call card that I've seen a lot of YouTubers do in their playthroughs, is focusing too much on actually using this card for its ability and ignoring the fact that you can actually use it as an ability to turn 3s and 4s into successes. So let's say you've rolled your dice and you have wound up with this situation right here, where you have 2 of these things, or even one of those and one of these where you've missed completely. And a lot of people will say, well, you know what, I'm going to spend my close call to re-roll this dice here. And I actually happen to get a success there, but you only have a 1 in 3 chance of rolling a success when you do that. And so that means you have 2 out of 3 chances of, again, either getting one of these, and you've just wasted your close call, or even one of these, which you've really wasted your close call. And so if you have the ability to do that, I highly recommend using this or other cards to turn in rather than using it for its reroll ability. Now, of course, the good time to use this card is when you've rolled 2 misses, or 3 misses if you have 3 dice. Then, yeah, turn this in to try and see what you can get. Oh, and look, I did pretty well there. And so don't get caught into the idea of using your close call just to reroll, because it can be actually very valuable as a one-point card, one-time card, to be able to use to turn in for a guaranteed success rather than I hope I get a success. So the next thing to mitigate your luck is to focus on the horror level. Use your focus cards often and buy a distraction or 2 along the way, because you want to be able to get to where you can be rolling 3 dice, and you definitely don't want to get in a situation where you can only roll 1 die. And so be very careful along those lines that you are focusing on getting that horror level down and keeping that horror level down so you can have the best chance to be able to roll some good successes. And then next of all, secondary fail options. Consider those things. Some cards have a secondary fail option. And see right here on this walk, some people will roll for their walk and they'll get a fail. And they'll be like, oh, I can't even move on my turn. But if you notice, you're going to be spending 2 time either way. But you can actually spend 2 time and lose a heart to move 1 space. And especially in your early game where you're away from the killer and you're mostly trying to get around the board as quickly as possible, it's very well worth spending a heart now. You can use a short rest later to get those hearts back. Sometimes when you save victims, you'll get hearts back. There's plenty of ways you can get those hearts back before you really need them. So go ahead and take that secondary loss option on your walk so that you can get moving, get the things done that you need to get done. Distraction is one of those cards that also has one. This one's a little bit costly because you're spending 4 time, but then you're able to lower the horror right there. And so it's not a waste there. You're certainly not raising the horror as if you had just taken the complete fail option. And it's worth spending the extra 2 time, because they're already going to waste 2 time on the miss. Go ahead and do that. So think about your secondary fail options. Don't just take the, oh, I can't do anything fail option. Use them when it makes sense. The fifth tip here is to use planning and improvise cards because they can be very powerful when they're used at the right time. Planning card, you roll it, you're going to be able to get some extra dice there. And so that's very important to use maybe for a critical blow or a furious strike. Some other cards that might be very powerful you really need to work in that moment. Go ahead and get that planning card. It costs 4. You might even want to get it a little bit in advance, knowing that you're not going to use it for a few turns, and then have it ready to use. The improvise card is one that you definitely going to want to play at the very beginning if you have it, beginning of your turn, because if you are successful with 2 successes, then every 3 and 4 is going to be a success for the rest of your turn. And so basically you've just made it to where you have a 66% chance of successes on all your die rolls. And so that is very important there. That means you are going to succeed more than you fail, in theory at least. There's still going to be some luck involved there. But you're going to succeed a lot more likely with this card. Now, if you don't get 2 successes, then you're going to wind up with just the next turn. You're going to get to use all your 3s and 4s. Of course, if you get 1 success and 1 3 or 4, go ahead and spend 2 cards if you can to make all your 3s and 4 successes that round. So that's some luck mitigation. The next thing I want to talk about is proper timing of cards. One of the first things you probably want to do in your round, if you're close to changing the horror level, is to play a focus card. Because if you manage to get that into the new bracket there, where you get extra dice, do that first thing. Now, if you're not going to be able to do that this turn, you can kind of hold off on that one. Use your improvise very first thing if you have it and you're planning on using it that turn, because it could be giving you lots of successes for the rest of the round. Don't do a turn or two and then be like, oh, I could have been getting 3s and 4s all this time as successes. Get that out there quick. Do things that you need to succeed this round first. You know, if you need to walk, go ahead and walk first. If you need to, whatever it is you need to happen, get that done first if you're in a position to use that card. And then if there's things that could stop your turn, use those later. The big things that can stop your turn are your short rest, your different attack cards can stop your turn. Anything that has the X symbol on it, that's going to stop your turn. You don't want to do that first thing because you could waste your entire turn. Unless, of course, you are in the space with the bad guy and you're just trying to get the attacks done, then you're going to be using that anyway. But if there's other things you want to accomplish, do those first and then use your stop cards, because you don't want to have that fail happen on your short rest when it's the very first thing you did and your entire turn is gone now. Also, if you have 1 health left, all you've got is this little token right here. Go ahead and wait before you heal to be using extra dice as long as possible. It's very tempting to be like, oh, I'm on my last health, I need to roll, get some health back. But you could be rolling an extra die your entire round. And then, towards the end of the round, you go ahead and roll and get that health back. And that also kind of helps with that whole idea of not doing a card that could stop your turn, because that heal could stop your turn if you missed it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is focusing on saving victims while staying away from the killer in the early game. Victims near the killer are distractions to buy you some more time rather than priorities. You can't save everyone. And it can be tempting to try and rush in there and get those victims out before they get taken out by the killer. You're going to be getting yourself into danger. You're going to be causing a lot of problems, a lot more time going around the board. Leave the killer to run after those people while you get the people on the other board to safety. Other side of the board to safety. That's just a good strategy there. You also want to keep bloodlust from going up as much, and so that's why it's important to be saving a lot of victims early. And I also want to unlock your final girl special ability if you can. So that's why in the early game you're going to be sprinting around a lot. Buy some sprints, get your walks back, use those to get around the board, save as many people as you can. At least try to save the 4, 5, or 6 that the cards require. At least most of them, that's what they require. I think there's one that only requires 2, and there might be a 7 one. But anyway, get however many that you need to get that special ability in play, because that's going to help you a lot to be able to win the game, as well as you're getting those victims out of the way so they don't become things that raise that bloodlust. Number 8, try finding a weapon. Exception for this is playing against the poltergeist, because you can't attack the poltergeist anyway. But for most of your killers, you want to be finding a weapon that you can use to get extra damage done to that killer, so that you can finish them off before they finish you off. And so be looking around trying to find those weapons. And remember that weapons that modify attacks also modify retaliate. And so if you get that weapon that adds damage to every one of your attacks, or 2 damage to every one of your attacks, well, when you get that retaliate card and the baddie hits you, you retaliate against the baddie, you go ahead and do an extra damage or 2 to them. So remember that. Weapons are very important for that reason, as well as for your attacks. Number 9, don't forget that you can sell cards for one time before you're purchasing your cards. I've seen a lot of people in their playthrough videos forget about this. They'll be like, "Oh, I really wish I could get a retaliate, but I only have 3 right now." But they have cards they're not even planning on using in their hand. Go ahead and spend a time. Now you have 4, or spend a card to get a time. Now you have 4. You can get your retaliate. Or you want that furious strike, but you only have 3. Well, there you go. So spend cards that you're not going to use, or that aren't as important to use, to be able to get a little extra time to spend for your bigger point cards. Now also, number 10 here, prepare. Spend a good amount of time preparing for the battle by getting weapons, by getting the cards you need to be able to fight, by saving victims, but don't dawdle too much. You don't want to be spending so much time just running around the board that all of a sudden you're in the finale and the killer's coming at you. You want to be able to be efficient with your turns as much as you can, get the things that you need to prepare for, and then get on over there and start attacking before too much bad stuff happens, and before that finale hits and it's hitting you for a lot. And so if you can, I know there's always depends on different things don't go to plan, but be as fast as you can in getting those things done. And finally, I just want to reiterate that retaliate and guard cards are going to be your MVPs in the late game. Seems so simple, yet that's something you need to be focused on, keeping those rotating, because you're going to, when you play those during your defense against the killer's action, that's going to be sitting through the next buy phase where you won't be able to buy it. And so you want to keep those in a good rotation so that you're being able to get at least one of them each round, preferably getting 2 every other round there. And of course, if you got some of the signature cards, some of them are really cool. We got a reaction card here that's a dodge, where you're able to, basically it's like a guard, but then you're also able to move out of the space. That's especially good when you've got a killer that's going to be attacking you twice in the same turn. And so that's kind of a cool little signature card if you have that. But even if you don't, you've got a couple guards and a retaliate that you can be using. Retaliate is perhaps the most powerful card in the game because it's defending you while also doing damage. I mean, that critical blow is tempting because you're doing a lot of damage with one hit, but it's not guarding you. It's not protecting you. And so I love getting that retaliated in. So these are some tips that I have for winning at Final Girl, mitigating your luck, making sure things are being done in the right order, in the proper way, and getting things done as efficiently as possible while trying to unlock your special girl ability and just being prepared to fight by getting a weapon, getting the cards you need, and then getting in there and getting it done. So I hope this will help you if you've been struggling with Final Girl. I hope if you've been wondering about how the luck is in this game, this will help to encourage you to realize that while there is luck involved, because you are rolling dice, there is also plenty of ways to mitigate that luck. And as I said, I've won over 75% of my games. And so the luck, even when it's not in your favor, you can kind of turn it towards your favor if you strategize carefully. Now, you're not going to win every game with these. Obviously, I haven't won every game. But these tips are going to help you. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've gotten something out of it. And I encourage you, if you haven't watched some of my other videos, I've got a playthrough right here that you can go check out and enjoy that. And right here you can go and see my thoughts on all the different Final Girl Season 1 boxes, as well as Final Girl overall. As always, I hope you'll stick around and catch me in some more videos. And have a great day.